If you've ever modeled a stair in Revit, you've probably noticed the issue with the railing where it turns. So we see here that the top railing is kind of like jumping up, and it's kind of an eyesore, especially from a rendering standpoint, but also just from, it's a decent amount of work to clean up every single stair with line work, with our line work tool and detail lines. So what I'm going to show you today is how we can take this and basically create a railing that's going to continue through. And basically the method is to create actually a baluster, which is, this is your railings are made up of balusters, which is the vertical element here, as well as rails, which are these horizontal diagonal elements that we're seeing here. So I'm going to create a new baluster family and basically line it up to the end of this and this. And I'm basically going to model it in a family. So the first step here is to export a 3D DWG file from Revit. And I only really need this portion of this railing and this stair to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the section box and modify it so I'm only looking, I'm not, removing the entire stair. So that's probably good. So I'm going to go to the R up here and go to Export, CAD, DWG. I'm going to go ahead, hit Next. Ask me where I want to save it, so I'm going to call this CAD Stair Turn Export. Hit OK. And then I'm using the default Revit template. So one of the families that gets loaded is this baluster round. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit. And basically what I'm doing is duplicating this baluster. So I'm going to get rid of this existing baluster. There are examples that will create this baluster and throw it on the end of the railing, but we're going to actually have it float by its own. It's just easier to work with. You're not messing with all these offsets, and we can use the arrow keys to kind of bump things around. So that's the example that I'm going to show. So now I can go ahead and do Insert, Import CAD. I'm going to import that 3D DWG file. And there it is right there. So first I'm going to go to a floor plan view and get this kind of a line on the insertion point, which you see over here. I'm going to rotate it like so. Still way up in the air. Okay, so that's good for now. All these reference plans aren't too important for what we're currently doing. I just want to get it so when I'm working with the offsets, it's not crazy. So first thing I want to do is give myself some reference planes to work with. So I'm going to hit RP. Extend that out. Okay, so that's good. Next thing I'm going to do is start to model my sweep, and I'm going to model the two halves, basically the one that comes down and then comes across a little bit and down this way, and then I'll just mirror it over. I'll give myself a vertical reference plane so when I'm in the plan view I know where to sketch my path. So I'm going to go to just this regular floor plan. There's that reference plane that I just drew, and I'm going to bump the scale so I don't have to, can see a little better. Alright, so we're going to go to home and we're going to create a sweep. I'm going to do sketch path, and one thing I'm also going to want to do is give myself a reference plane so that I'm make sure that this sketch is cut in half. So just two more here. I'm dimensioning it so it's just a quick way to get it centered. Alright, and I'll go back to creating this sweep. And we'll just take it out so far. That's good for now. I'm going to edit the profile from the right view. In this case, I know that the radius is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and so right now it's flat, but all I need to do is RO for rotate and go ahead and rotate it into place. Now from my floor plan view, I can go ahead and copy this with my mirror tool, and now that's selected I can jump right back to my right elevation view and rotate it down. Okay, so if we go to a 3D view, and I'll change it to a shaded view, it'll be easier to see. Interesting colors. So this is good. It extends in there, and that's fine. That's what I want. Don't worry about trying to get to match perfectly to this and then using voids and stuff to cut it flush. So that's good for now. I do want to extend this a little further, but then once that's set I'll go ahead and join them. So I'm just going to go back to my reference level here and do edit the path, which because we rotated it's going to be funky, projected out. Okay, so if I go back to my 3D view now, there, that's good. It's extending into there. Last thing I want to do is go ahead and join these two masses together. There, so now it's one fluid piece. And so this is set pretty much. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the initial CAD that I brought in, so I'm just left with this piece here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Just around, I'm going to say with turn. I always like to just set this to 1 out of habit. Alright, so that's good. So I can go ahead and load this into my project. So one thing I'm going to want to do is create a new railing type. So basically this is one complete run, but what I'm going to have is a run that basically goes from the base to this point here and then jumps over from this point up to the top, and that's just going to remain the default railing. Then I'm just going to create my own railing over here, which is going to just have that baluster in it and align it as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm just hitting Control-C, and I'm going to paste align to current view. So now I literally have two railings on top of one another. And now I'm editing the path. And delete that on that one. And on the second one, I'm going to delete the lower portion of the stair. Hit OK. Alright, so now that that is set, I'm going to create my own railing. So now I'll show you in a 3D view what we have. And the quickest way to get back instead of trying to drag this section box out is just turn it off. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. We got that junk out of there, more or less. So now from well, I'll just go ahead and jump to a first floor plan. I can take and duplicate this railing type, and I'm going to call it handrail pipe. I'm going to say turn only, because it's only going to have that one baluster in it. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to edit the rail structure. It's going to give me an error on this because there's balusters that are using the rail to host, as in how the baluster knows how high to come up. I'm just going to hit yes, that's fine, and delete all that. So now all my rails are gone from this railing type. Next thing I'm going to jump into is my balusters. Main pattern, I can set this to none so that none appears there. I can set this to none as well. I'll set this to none, and I'll set my start post to baluster round with turn. These were the types that I didn't delete out of that original family because of the way we modeled it. I mean, we didn't set a parameter to control that thickness, which is fine. You could, but in this case, any one of these I pick would be fine because there's no parameter that's going to change between the types. So I'm going to hit OK, hit apply, and hit OK. Hit OK. Hopefully it doesn't change. Keeps this as, so that's good. So now if I just choose my railing tool and change this to pipe turn only, one other thing I have to change inside of this type. I just have to offset the top because right now they're the same level, so it confuses it, even though our particular baluster doesn't work off of anything. So there we go. Now we're good. All right, so now what's nice about this is I can just rotate this and everything. So what I've found is if I try to embed it in here, you'll notice now it's like backwards from this, and it just gets to be a real headache. But this makes it real easy to work with. I'll rotate it around. I'll go to a 3D view to see where it actually is in elevation. So it's really low. Let's bring it up to 8 feet. A little high there. Jumping back down to 7. Okay, and what I can do actually is jump into create my own section. So we'll run a section right through here and jump into there. And I can literally get it pretty close, and then with my arrow keys adjust as needed. Okay, so that's pretty close. I mean, it's a little off. Bad for right now. So if we go to a 3D view, let's see what we have. We have that, and if we even turned off this edges in our 3D view, I mean that's not bad at all. Next thing I'll show you in this section view. So you notice how we have these extra lines. Under the Modify tab, we have this line work tool. What I'm able to do is set it to invisible. And I can turn off these extra lines I don't want to see just by selecting them. Okay, so now that starts to look better, and then all we have to do is when we copy a stair up, if I highlight this whole stair, hit Control C and paste it to selected levels 2, jump back to a 3D view, you'll see it brought that turn with it. So I have seen people try to embed it within this railing and set it to one of the balusters as in the end, but it's just a lot more of a headache. But this just gives you a better graphic look. And then what's nice is I could copy it down here and throw it on this portion here once I have my landing and everything set. But that is one workaround to get through that situation. Thanks a lot.